The question is that the motion be agreed to. The Honourable Amy Adams.
Mr. Speaker, I can't help sitting in this House noticing just how grumpy Labor are getting. Have you noticed that? They're getting grumpier and grumpier. And you've got to think it's because the factions on their caucus are getting so far apart, it's looking more and more like the Grand Canyon and reducing that to looking like a puddle. On the one hand, you've got the free traders. You've got the free traders like Phil Goff, you've got David Shearer, you've got Clayton Cosgrove, who used to understand that free trade was good for this country, who used to celebrate the success of New Zealand that free trade brought, and who hate with a passion the U-turn that Labor is now doing on supporting free trade. Then on the other side, you've got Claire Curran, Sue Moroney, Ruth Dyson, who hate the free traders. They hate the free traders. They can't wait to drag New Zealand back into the fortress mentality of the 60s, because socialism, frankly, has never liked success. But there's one thing they do agree on. And that's that they all hate Phil Twyford. They all hate Phil Stoner Twyford, and why wouldn't they? I've got to say, it's a very different Labor Party to the one under Helen Clark, isn't it? It's a very different Labor Party to the Labor Party of 2002, when Helen Clark said this. I don't often quote Helen Clark, but Helen Clark said this. There was a time when New Zealand was fearful of cultural diversity and distinctly unwelcoming to migrants of Chinese descent. She expressed sorrow and regret that such practices were once considered appropriate, and she hoped her apology would give full closure on that chapter in our history. Well, wouldn't she be horrified? Wouldn't she be horrified that it's her own party who have now gone back to picking on Kiwis who happen to have a name that sounds Chinese, and being very unwelcoming to them, suggesting that somehow they shouldn't be entitled to buy a house in New Zealand, that somehow that is wrong. Wouldn't she be horrified? Wouldn't she be horrified to be demonising those sort of New Zealanders? Mr. Speaker, the Labor Party of today took a policy of changing our flag and having a referendum on it to the election. They stood up in the election, they stood up in October and said, we want to change the flag, we think there should be a referendum. They still actually, Mr. Speaker, they still have it on their website today saying that their policy is a referendum to change the flag, and yet they send their leader into the House and into the public day after day to stand up and completely sell his soul for political expediency, complete craven insincerity, because they think there might be a win in it. Well, Mr. Speaker, New Zealanders see through that sort of falsehood. Just ask David Cunliffe. How well did insincerity work for David Cunliffe? And they will see through Andrew Little. But if that's not enough, now he's having a crack at the anthem, right? He's having a crack at the New Zealand anthem. When will it end? How long will it take for Labor to stop running down this country? How long will it take for them to stop bagging this country that we love, that we're proud of? Well, Mr. Speaker, I can tell you this. Maybe the reason they hate the anthem is because most of the people who proudly sing it hate them. I think that's what it's about. They know that the people who proudly sing our anthem are not supporting the Labor Party, and that's why they're not having a bar of it. Mr. Speaker, our party, the National Party, stands for a New Zealand that is positive, that supports this country, that is confident, that is outward-looking, and that embraces our multicultural diversity. Mr. Speaker, this is a party that understands that free trade brings jobs. We've seen 211,000 people more employed since 2010 because of the policies of this government that know that it's business that creates wealth in our economy, and our job is to create an environment for them to get ahead. Mr. Speaker, that's what's working. That's why we see a country that is slashing through the deficit, the never-ending deficits left to us by Labor, that has one of the strongest growth rates in the OECD, one of the lowest unemployment rates in the OECD, Mr. Speaker, that has tripled average internet speeds, which I'm very proud of, that has seen 33 months of month-on-month growth in the manufacturing sector, which began shortly after they declared the crisis, of course, Mr. Speaker, wages are rising faster than inflation. We have solid growth. We have a government led by an inspirational leader who is proud of this country and who will back it every day.